This is Bottom of the Bill. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Bottom of the Bill. We are super excited about this week's guest, but before we get to all that, we got to do our weekly check-in. What's been going on, Chris?
Chilling. Went to the Jags game Monday. First Monday night football game since like 2012 or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, we don't get a lot of good slots anymore because we are just a god-awful team. Yeah. So we got to go and experience that whole madness. The game was actually trash, and they stomped out our quarterback, which was, that's pretty Jacksonville. The highlight for me was hanging with a couple friends now. I can call them friends.
Oh, you think so?
I do.
Well, they wouldn't give you tickets to the show, though, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, you got tickets to the show?
Backstage hangout session. Yeah, we're buddies now, man.
Let's tell the people what you're talking about.
So I went with Jeremy King and some of his family, and we just pulled into the parking lot, and we're having a couple brews in the parking lot, wandering around, and like 3 cars down from us is Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi, just parked right over there. And I know a couple of their family members that come out to shows, and so I went and said hey, and saw all of them again. And I've met Susan before, so I caught up with her, and she introduced me to Derek. So that was my first time meeting Derek Trucks, and no pressure. Yeah. You know what I mean? No pressure on that one. Had to play it super cool. Had to talk to him like I hadn't tried to cop licks from him for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
But honestly, like in the moment, it was just very, Susan was like, Derek, you got to meet this guy. And I was like, nope, no, here we go. This is it. And he just kind of walks over, and we just start talking about guitars and gigs, and talked about the amphitheater that he's booked. And I told him we're doing the after party at Dog Rose on March 16th. And he's like, well, cool. Y'all go set up early and then come over to the amp and hang out and then go to your show. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. We're definitely doing that. So it was, and we just tailgated with them for, a couple hours and just hung out with their camp and their crew. Their whole entire family was there. They've got a massive family here, extended family in Jacksonville, and they just had a tailgate. So kind of beat the pants off of the game that I went and saw. Who could care less about the football game?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a little surreal moment this week for sure.
Yeah.
It's
funny because you texted me while you were there. You're like, stay by your phone because if we win, there might be an after party with Derek and Susan, and they said to invite my friends, so I'll hit you up. And I was all right. So I went over to the Blue Jay Jam where Todd was in town, Todd Smalley, who plays bass with Mofro and used to play bass with Derek Trucks Band. And also has been on the show before. You can go check that episode out with him and Craig. So he was at Blue Jay, and so I show up, and Kevin Ramos is there, KP is there, Elon's there, Christian Powers was there, and there's a few other people just kind of in the circle. So we're all like hanging out, and I told them what was going on. And so for the rest of the night, other than when we were jamming, everyone's just like looking at their phones, checking the game, and then it got to be like 11:30, and I was like, guys, I don't really care what happens at this point. I'm going home. And then you hit me up. We were like, yeah, we lost. There's no after party.
Yeah, and like overtime at like 1 a.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the whole deal. Is like. Because I mentioned, I was like, have you seen Todd? He's in town doing all the Mofro stuff. He's playing tonight at Blue Jay. And they're like, oh, yeah, Derek's been talking to Todd, this and that. I'm like, so are there any hangs afterwards, like any post-celebration things? They're like, well, let's see if we win or lose first. And I'm like, all right, cool. So game started. We went our separate ways to watch the game, and we were parked right next to each other. So we go back out into the lot, and they had cut loose during the game. So like they're all, kind of with their camp, just kind of like mourning, but, still partying and carrying it on a little bit. And so like I kind of walk by, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty brutal. They're like, yeah, that one was painful. And we talked a little bit more, and they're like, I'm like, so no, you guys aren't jamming. They're like, nah, Trevor Lawrence got stomped out. We need to mourn tonight. And I was like, all right, well, it was worth a shot. But the highlight of my part of that, we walk up and Susan is just belting out in the parking lot, just serenading anyone that's listening and walking by, and we're just like, All right, these people are like, it's just football fans. They don't know music. They don't realize that a Grammy winner is serenading their walk to their car drunkenly.
Right.
And like I walked up and I was just kind of like making a little joke referencing the game, and I was just like quoting her tune "Hurt So Bad." I was like, it hurt," and like I saw Derek's head whip around. He goes, "Oh yeah, it's Chris." He's like,
too
"Who
funny.
is quoting this? Did no one know?" It was fun. But yeah, sorry to lead y'all on all night. It was
hilarious, honestly. It made for good conversation.
oh, I bet it did. They're just like, who cares about the game? Chris pulled through for us.
Yeah, exactly. We were all just like literally looking at our phones. Like, yeah, anyone get a text yet? And you want to know what the score is? And then all the Mofro guys are like sitting there like on the breaks watching the game just because they're into football.
They like the sport.
Yeah.
They don't want to party and hang on a Monday.
Yeah, they're like, I don't care. Derek's in town. We'll see him another time.
I was gonna be like, yeah, we're got a show lined up with him later. It's all good. It's just funny though that I texted you because you had asked if I was going to the jam, and I was like, no, I'll fill you in, and I like kind of drunkenly half texted you, and you kind of deciphered what it meant.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what you just said, but I'm gonna guess it's an after party, maybe.
Yeah, you're like Derek, Susan, party, and then a bunch of words that don't go together.
Dude, you have like you are the worst texter. Next, you and Chelsey are the worst texters because Chelsey does that voice to text thing, which is just not accurate, and I don't know what she's talking about half the time.
Yeah,
and then you're just sloppy.
I was that night for sure.
Yeah, I'm like,
that night.
This must be some fucking backwoods North Carolina talk.
No,
I
just
can't
my
decipher this.
Thumbs are real freaking big, and keyboards are real freaking small.
That's true.
And it's just bonk, 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 and then autocorrect gets involved, and it's just a party that none of us were invited to. It's a problem. But yeah, I like that. I texted you like, yeah, keep your phone by you. I'm going to keep you posted. And then now my friendship with 7 dudes is on the line.
Yeah.
Like that's real cool. That's awesome.
I don't think anybody was expecting anything to happen. Everyone was just kind of like, it was just more of the anticipation.
Oh yeah.
Of
like,
something.
is this actually going to go down? No way. This is crazy. It's a Monday night.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was that information that helped or not, but everyone was playing really well that night.
I would hope so. Everyone comes in on their game for that one.
But also Todd just being there was cool. He's got a great spirit.
Yeah, I mean, he just amplifies all sorts of musicality coming out of you. You know, it's like
he's
awesome.
He's super cool, man. And that was, he's been on the show before, obviously, but like it was just, it's different like when you're standing up there playing with somebody who you like came up listening to.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, like, okay, well we've talked before, obviously, and we've like hung out, but when you're making music with somebody like that, it's a whole different thing. You're like, damn, this is like surreal as fuck.
Yeah. We did it backwards because when he was on the show, he was a guest at that jam the night before, and I was out there playing with him, and then we had the pod the next day. So I was kind of just like listening to the conversation, be like, "There's no way that we just did that." And then you got to do the
opposite,
the inverse of like, I sat on that conversation for a while and know the context of who he is on top of what you already know, and then it's
right.
Like, oh wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it was cool, man. And Kevin got up there and played Little Wing with that dude Dami Hendrix. And he took a great solo, man. Kevin took a great solo.
That's awesome. Bass is his voice, man. It's I do some duo gigs with him, and he plays guitar. And he started on guitar. It's funny, but like he is just at home on a bass.
Yeah. Especially
recently, he's just finding his voice further and further as he goes. It's really cool to be buddies with him and watch that go down.
Yeah.
Because I'll like, even on guitar, like it's just the language is getting developed more and more. Like, he usually expresses frustration after guitar solos, but every now and again I'll see him stumble into just this like really, really killing thing, and I can just watch him be like, I connected all the dots this time.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's all in there, so it's just fun to watch. It's cool to see your buddies like crack that code every now and then and just like bust it open.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I got some stuff. I don't know if I can announce it yet.
We'll get to it soon.
Yeah, but I've got some stuff I'm working on with him right now that I'm excited about, and a few other people. So,
the only other fun little tidbit and story of Monday, that I would love to share and just put him on blast a little bit more is Mitch Fountain was also 3 cars away from us.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Derek and Susan, I was like, hey, Mitch, come over here. And I brought him over and like introduced him and everything because he's never met them. And we're all, we come from the same cloth, musically speaking. So it was cool. Got to introduce my buddies to them and this and that. And then we went over and we were talking and I was a little drunk. So I started maybe talking a little shit.
Stirring up some shit.
I might have been talking a little bit of shit. And I was like, man, Mitch, it's crazy that you're a better guitar player than him, dude. It's nuts. And he was just like, Chris, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, dude, Spotify doesn't lie. Am I right? I don't know if you've noticed this and checked it out, but on top of Flip Turn always doing well, they're doing really well again.
Yeah.
And always. Their monthly streaming numbers right now is sitting at 1.9 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of streams per month.
Yeah.
And Tedeschi Trucks is sitting around 500,000. So I'm like, dude, you are piping these guys, this and that. And he was just like, dude, you have to stop saying that out loud right now.
What a shit starter, dude.
Oh, dude, it was great. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. That's a lot more numbers. It's kind of 4 times as much as theirs, actually. It's pretty cool, dude. He goes, Chris, they sold out Red Rocks twice. We barely got an opening slot. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. And of course, jam bands are marketed differently and this and that.
Yeah.
But he was squirming. It was so fun.
Funny.
He was just squirming. He just met Derek Trucks, and then it was great. So yeah, that was a fun. That was a fun.
You stirring shit up, dude. Now they're never going to come on the podcast after that.
They're never coming on the podcast, but somehow I'm the only one that keeps getting everyone to connect to themselves. It's just kind of wild that everyone keeps saying that, but whatever.
All right. Well, speaking of being on the podcast, you and Chelsey were on this week to promote the new Alchematic stuff.
Surreal moment, full circle.
Yeah. It was a fun podcast, man, honestly.
Yeah, no, it was great. Chelsea's been watching these happen now for like 3 years too. So like the hype she's built up, she's like, oh my God, I got to go on the podcast now. This is like a whole thing.
I know.
And it was great. It was a lot of fun. Like, I mean, we got to really talk about how the record came about and what took so long and like what we learned about it. And, just put all that, get our behind the scenes out about the whole thing. It was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And then our buddy Caleb filled in. I work with him every week. He's a fun dude and held it down for us.
He's a good guy, man. I like Caleb. He was fun too.
Oh yeah, Caleb's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
I am thankful, but sometimes wish our Sundays were recorded because if I'm a problem, he's a problem too. Hashtag problems.
Well, I'm sure they'll find out in this episode. So, guys, enjoy the episode. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We got merchandise in the description. Make sure you check out Alchematic's new record as well. And all the content they've been putting out is great. And let us know what you think. Enjoy. This is Bottom of the Bill. Well, welcome guys to the podcast, the long awaited, with Chelsey and Chris. How's it feel, Chris, to be on the other side of the what do you call it?
A wall.
Yeah, the other side of the wall, I guess.
I don't think I like it.
You don't.
Oh, no.
It's too early to tell, but
a lot of pressure.
We've got our buddy Caleb over there filling in.
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
Some of you might remember him from PK. I obviously have a hard time because every time I meet Caleb, I have to reintroduce myself.
I thought you were going to say you might remember him from the alley behind PK.
Hey.
Oh.
What do you know about my alley?
Visited a time or two.
So what's been going on, guys? How's everything going?
Everything's going. We're gonna have to look at each other to see who's.
Is it your turn or my turn? It's going well. We just put out the EP a little while back and had an EP show and just capitalizing off some momentum that we've been cooking up for the past
we're just sustaining.
Yeah.
And now we're moving.
How are you guys feeling about the release and everything that's led up to it and everything that's happened afterwards?
I feel great. I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work, but we put everything we have into it, so.
How long were you guys? I feel weird asking these questions because I obviously know all of this already. But like for those who don't know,
you're doing great. Keep it up.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been working on this project for, and what was kind of everything leading up to the release like?
Well, we rebranded to Alchematic right before the pandemic.
February, right?
No, it was like March. We were doing
Yeah,
a show
right,
at
right,
1904.
right
We're like,
before.
our new name's Alchematic. We're separating the cover band stuff from the original stuff. So, and then 2 days later, the world shut down.
Yeah.
So we've been at it for a while, and we've had to like pivot a lot. And after the pandemic, we kind of honed in on like working with good people and pulling in our resources to go full force with it. So
Yeah, it was. I was thinking about it today. It's just like wild how much evolved from that change, like that rebrand, into like where we're at sitting on this couch. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
the members we've went through, the songs, how they've changed and arranged. Like,
yeah,
it's, you know, thinking back on the whole thing, you're like, well, a pandemic hit and then we made a record and here we are. But if you like look at each stopping point, it's like members changed on the record, like stuff evolved in the recording process. It was like way more than you realize over the course of, I mean, 3 years and change.
yeah. Well, tell us about some of the stops along the way. What was the first iteration of Alchematic?
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it started off, you know, Chelsey and I, and then we pulled in some UNF cats that I knew, John Medico and Jose Villapando, two friends of the pod.
Yeah.
And we played Porch Fest with them.
Yeah, that was 2018 because I just went through that footage.
Yeah.
So that was even before 2020. Some of the songs have like 10-year history.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like those guys kind of, you know, everyone that we've been around has kind of helped shape some of the music. So like playing with those guys kind of got it, the first iteration of some of these tunes. And, you know, we changed players over the years. Some guys got busy. We rotated in and out of stuff. Jack Miller and Sean Tillis were a part of it. And then come COVID and the rebrand, that's when we linked up with Chris Castro and Jeremy Gray. And that was kind of the core of the recording project. From there on out is where it kind of started to solidify with guys that we were using for the process. And like they're I mean, just phenomenal players, really motivated to like write music because there wasn't gigs to have, there wasn't anything. So once we got through like the beginning stages and we got to kind of the rebrand and where we wanted to go with the music, it was like, all right, step one is find a studio. So we started looking around town for studios to use, and checked out a good bunch of them, got a bunch of different quotes, but it might have been Courtney and Elon with Coy Boy that turned us on to Friends of Friends and Brock. That's where we cut a lot of stuff. Like that's where our first sessions were. And I heard some of the stuff that he put out and loved it and was like, this guy's got the vibe. So we went in there, cut drums, and then went and did bass at Jeremy's home space. Went to Eric Sullivan's studio, GHQ. Eric's our boy from UNF as well.
UNF stagehand crew.
Yeah, I was gonna say the whole stagehand crew is really playing a lot, even to this day. Cut all the guitar and keys with Eric, and then we went back to Brock and cut all the vocals.
Also went through two keys players.
We went through
the recording process.
Two keys players. That was fun. We had a keys player show up to the session with his keyboard tuned down, like a good few semitones, not all the way a half step, but like they tuned down and forgot they did it, and they ran the session and they're like, yeah, everything's sounding really out of tune, and he kept being like, hey, I'm in tune, and we're like, I mean, how are we all in tune? How are we out of tune on this record?
Crazy.
What do you mean, like, it was like a keyboard or like an actual...
It was a Nord.
Yeah. So but how's
like
that
moved down?
Easy fix?
Well, he'd forgotten he had done it.
Oh,
and there was a little
about it.
There was a little bit of gaslighting going on of like, no, dude, it's a keyboard, it's in tune, you know what I mean? This and that. And I'm like, well, we cut all this stuff and it's in tune with each other. How, like, and we tune before every take. Like, how are you?
It seems like that's just like, I don't know how keyboards work, but I would imagine it's not a crazy obstacle to reset. So it seems like something you could just kind of check out real quick, Caleb?
I feel like you should have a light that says you're transposed currently. But
I don't even know if it's full transpose. I mean, it was like a quarter step between. Say if it's an E, it's an E half flat.
You know, they that happens so much on like old records too. When you like try to go to like learn music and it's like somewhere in between. Like Last Dance of Mary Jane's a great example of that.
Yeah.
Where it's like somewhere in between A and B flat, and you're just kind of like, and my only thing, like the only thing I could think of is that they just tuned to whatever the acoustic piano was to because it's just easier to do that, or it's a really weird display of like, fuck you're not learning my tune that easily.
I don't think, I mean, like, it's someone was like, I've got an idea, they tuned up to whatever was the closest thing, and they just hit record, and it probably ended up being the take.
And it makes so much sense in that context, but like today when everything's done electronically, it seems like it's just weird to me that somebody would have such an issue with checking to make
it was so bizarre, and like it was bizarre. So like,
do we feel comfortable naming names?
No. But you've played with him pretty recently. So we ended up after that. I was playing in a Johnny Cash tribute, and I had my buddy Andre was playing with me in that group, and I was like, hey man, we got some stuff we need keys laid down for with our original project, and we sent him the music, and he then started blowing me up about the sessions. Like, he was so excited once he heard that stuff. Like, he was like, dude, I would love to be part of this. And he came over and rehearsed a few times. I think you met him at those rehearsals when I was like, meet Andre, he's gonna play some of our stuff. And you're like, all right,
and
let's see.
He's a DJ too.
Let's see what he's got. Yeah, he's a great DJ. He's been on the pod. Satellite Frank in the house.
Yeah, you guys ended up using some of his DJ skills, right?
I mean, I've always wanted to implement scratching and hip hop into our stuff, always. And I was like, yo, you got to scratch. So we wrote an intro for the whole set, and we sampled me going Alchematic, Alchematic, and we put it kind of reminds me of like Sissy Strut, but he scratches over the whole thing. But at our EP release, he actually DJ'd before us. And
in between all the bands.
And it was just a good transition.
I mean, and to go even just to expand on that, it was so cool because he took whatever the last band was playing, found exactly where to weave in. I mean, it was like the whole night was DJ'd in a sense that like he knew exactly how to flow in and out of it, and just the raddest DJ stuff. Like I heard him do a mix up because I was running around. I was busy all night. I played with 2 groups that night, and it's our big day, so it was just like a lot happening. And I remember like looking up and seeing Andre up there, and he had like was remixing Steely Dan's My Old School and took those hits at the end and was like looping the hits and then like transitioned into something else. And I just remember being like, that is the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard.
It's like the mark of it's like noticing when someone's like an actual DJ versus somebody that just like presses
the details.
play.
It's in the details.
Dude, 100%. And his song choice was so perfect for the night. Like Andre instantly became like home team family, like from that session. Like he lives in Palm Coast, so he drove up for the session 2 days in a row.
You're talking about the recording session.
Yeah.
Not the live show anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Such a team player. Like, loved the music, loved the vibe he was bringing in and everything. So he became home team pretty quick after those sessions. And then we cut guitar there as well. Eric Sullivan is he's got to come on the pod sometime too. He's a great dude and a great great engineer. And then we cut all that stuff, went back to Friends of Friends,
right,
and did all the vocal stuff. And Chelsey laid down all the lead vocals.
It was like an 8-hour day.
It was a long day for
and I
singing.
think it was like 2 years ago. So we recorded it. There's a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts, a lot of studios, a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember that session going really well. Brock is a
wizard.
Really a wizard. I mean, in terms of like engineering the session, he was great. Like, he was a great coach and like coaching stuff out of Chelsey and I and like facilitating ideas. Like, we got through all the lead vocal stuff and started working on harmony stuff, and that's where kind of we had ideas of what we wanted, but nothing technical spec'd out. It was like we had extra time in the day, so he would, you know, encourage any and all ideas. And I remember we came up with some really cool, it was Fanboy. I was sitting there with a guitar and I was like, try this, this, and this. And Brock and Chelsey were both like, yeah, I can't really hear that. And I'm like, check it out. Like, let's record 3 layers of it. And then
getting so frustrated.
We cut 3 layers of it, and both of them were just like, whoa. Yeah. Little chord movements and stuff. So like that was a really cool session to see stuff evolve kind of in real time, because we didn't have those parts down yet.
Yeah. That's why it's important to go in like as prepared as you can be, because then it really allows you to get more explorative when you're in there.
Yeah.
Your ears can be open to new ideas if you don't have to go in there and wait, or if you're not going in there and just like hashing out the parts that you should have already down, right?
Totally.
So
yeah, like Chelsey was a machine. Like you cut all your stuff in probably half the day, maybe a little more than half. We took like lunch and stuff, like really nailed the parts. Did like a few comfort takes of everything to have, but got all that stuff in and got it with Brock. And then we had horn parts that we came up with, so I arranged a lot of those, and this was probably the hardest part of the record. Was
shout out to John Ward for helping us with that.
John Ward was a massive support. Came over and like gave me pointers, like put his ear on stuff. Like he was super helpful.
another friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
Been on
He's
3 times.
He's gonna get a little in honor plaque up here in a bit.
Little side note: getting the scratch tracks and the horn parts before even going into the studio took forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we spent so much time charting every single instrument out.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize how much work goes into it. And then we recorded at 3 different studios. 3?
Yeah. 4.
4. Oh, and Chris's house.
Yeah.
And my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers.
So many layers. And when it was all done, like that stuff was the trickiest to do. But once it got done, we sent it off to Brock.
Yeah.
And he sent it back to us. And I remember being just floored the first time he sent it. I mean, like, I don't think we had any notes for him in terms of the mix. Like maybe we had like a couple little EQ things and stuff like that. But in terms of his instinct and what we sent him and what he gave it back, it was like, whoa, this dude has got some ears on him. And he even said he doesn't really do a lot of records like ours.
Mm-hmm.
So just to know that that's what he can do kind of with what he's given was wild. And we did all those mix sessions virtually because he then moved back to Chicago by then.
Yeah.
So once he got this to us, it was just a matter of getting all the release stuff finalized and get it out into the world, which was its own beast. Chelsey really led point on a lot of that stuff, did a lot of research and like figured out the best way to, get it in front of people, get it online. How do you protect yourself? How do you copyright yourself? Like did a ton of the research on that side.
Not to mention just like the visual aesthetic of everything.
Yeah.
All that's the second half of it.
That was important to me.
Yeah.
To have visuals for each song, to have cool artwork, to collaborate with artists that I respect, and it was great. It was amazing to align with those artists on that. And I got to. The weird thing is the guy who did the single art was actually my old guitar player in Miami, Moses, and I haven't talked to him in 10 years. And he wanted to help. One of the songs was like his babies because for our song Take Me, it was inspired, the hook was inspired by something he wrote 10 years ago. And I just had a sound recording of it. And I changed the melody a little bit, changed the words a little bit. We came up with a whole like murder mystery concept. And when he heard it, he was floored. He wanted to help us. So he did every single art. And then Rosaria did the album art. And I went down to South Florida 3 or 4 times. And every single time we added a little more. And me and her built our relationship artistically over that and bonded over that. And it was just a great experience. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, for me, my biggest value is just working with good people, like people that I actually like.
Yeah.
We had a couple bad eggs in there, and that's my biggest value now. It's just like, because you could work with other people and just get different results and not go as far.
Well, it's hard when you're working with people that don't care about the end result in the way that you do, and when you have and you're naturally going to have that experience if you go into an endeavor like this, but then eventually after going through the process of working with people that might not care so much, you'll find people that can see the vision and they can get on board with it and that are talented in their own right and can lend their skills or whatever, you figure stuff out. But like I think that you find those people along the way, and it goes a long way, and it shows in the outcome of what you guys have put out,
Right.
that you've worked with people that you value and respect, and that obviously saw the vision that you guys saw.
Right.
Yeah, and build relationships with, because like everyone that was on this process I would use again. Like I wouldn't change anything of the process. It took a long time, but like how much we've learned and how much we grew through it, you know what I mean? Like as artists, as people, all that stuff. Like I think it turned out how it should have, for that reason. Like we got a great crew around us, and like we got something that we can put our stamp on and like hang our hat on. We didn't rush through it. Yeah, we didn't like cut any corners. It takes a long time, but the more people I talk to, it's like it's almost a fluke if it doesn't take at least a while. It's different for everybody and how they work and like what else is going on in life and stuff. But the more people I talk to, they're like, yeah, these songs were written 2 years ago and we started recording them a year after that. And it just, we were talking to Ariel Posen. He said the same thing. He was like, yeah, I'm sitting on songs from 5-6 years ago. It's just like,
yeah.
So it made me feel better about the process. It's just like, all right, cool. Like take the time, put the quality into it. And when it's ready, it'll come out. Like, it's going to come out. That's the end goal. And there's no reason to rush it. It's like, just put out what you're envisioning.
Yeah, take your time with everything.
Yeah.
And it's also hard when you don't have like label support, when you're doing everything yourself or you're funding it. It's just, you have to sometimes get creative. You have to take a detour and get creative with how you raise money.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the focus, and then you can once you've acquired money or whatever resource it is that you need, you can then refocus your energy on the thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just takes, you have to take these like when the other stuff isn't provided for you.
Yeah.
You have to take these detours.
Shout out to everyone that played cover gigs with us, because we didn't see tips for the past 7 or 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
But that was just, one of the deals is like, hey, if you're on the gig, this is what the gig pays. This money is like,
Not everyone loved that, but
it's all right.
it's okay.
Well,
We called the people that did, because like it's all part of seeing the vision. Like even playing the cover gigs, it's like, yeah, it's a means to an end, so we can do this thing. And like if you're on board with that, sick. Like it's not like Chelsey or I are seeing that money either in our pockets. Like we're all making the same thing at the end of the day.
And then we were taking some of the pay and putting it in the band fund as well.
Yep.
So like some gigs we only got paid $50, when we should have been making $150 or whatever.
Yeah. Because all that stuff adds up. Studios ain't cheap. Art's not cheap. Video, none of it's. Did you know that nothing's cheap?
Yeah, especially in this world,
Yeah.
like, and it's fair and it's fine because artists deserve to get paid for their work, and especially in an industry that undervalues artists so consistently. So when you work with people and they want to charge you top dollar, if the quality is going to be there and the passion is going to be there, then it's just worth it, and they've earned it. Honestly, that's what it boils down to.
Totally.
Which, speaking of quality art and video, the No More video.
Yeah,
was
the crown jewel of the project, it turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Miles for that.
Miles, Dante.
And shout out to Chelsey on that too. Like I've told everyone, like my vision was really on the musical side of it. Like I had a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to see out of certain things and like how to support her vocals and lyrics and stuff. And when it came to videos, that is not my medium, not my realm, So once she got the ball rolling and once we got there, it was like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
this was awesome.
I mean, for me though, like, what's the word? I'm like a pluralist. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Just putting out music's I'm not gonna be content with that. I need to express myself in every way. So, and I have a very cinematic mind. So when I write a song, I have the video, the concept, I have everything in my head, the artwork. I want to like connect disciplines and have dancing and live art and do it all. And it just, was wild to me how it all aligned and how we actually pulled it off.
Yeah.
So if you guys didn't know this, me, Chris, and Caleb are stagehands at UNF. And we were able to use the UNF theater. Shout out to Misty and Andrew.
Yeah.
They're a part of our team too. They're freaking visionaries at lighting design and sound and all that. And then our friend Chris Kidman did the backdrop. He's a graffiti artist that works with us as well. And I wanted graffiti in the video. Initially, I wanted him to be doing a piece or something, but we found an old backdrop and we used pipe and drape and hung it up. And then I just went through the backdrop to the stage. And I also thought it was wild that people listened to every crazy idea I had, because sometimes I get so excited that it's hard for me to articulate what the fuck I'm talking about. I sound like a turkey. I'm like, because I get excited.
Yeah.
But everyone listened to me and took me seriously. And Miles knew exactly what I was going for. He showed me this band, Jungle Forever. And they're kind of like the Bee Gees, but all their videos have dance concepts in them. And he just knew exactly what I liked. And so, yeah, it turned out great. I was exhausted that day, but
I was gonna say that was one of the coolest days of the entire process too, because like we came to UNF because we knew there was a loose vision of like start somewhere and end somewhere. Like we wanted to end up on the stage, but there was a loose idea of like maybe start outside, maybe come inside.
Yeah, it was. We all kind of did on the fly.
But once we got into the room together, we started looking at like what was there and what was around us and what we could do. And I mean, it was just explosive creativity. Like Chelsea's like, all right, here's the main idea. Then Miles would be like, all right, well, this is what I can do with the camera. And I can do this and that. And I was like, well, what if you bring this idea in and, you know, would throw something out here, and then they would take that and run with it. So like the vision, like what you see came from like maybe 4 or 5 hours of just like walking around and being in it, doing little dummy shoots and stuff like that. And like even talking through it, I'm like, okay, I could start to see this. This is cool. And then we came to shooting it, and shooting it was a blast. We got a lot of our friends on the session, and Miles is, you know, we've worked with him a ton. He's a pro to work with, like makes it super easy and fun. And then I was starting to see those like little clips he was showing us, and I'm like, all right, Miles, that looks pretty good. And then that one breakthrough shot through the graffiti onto the stage, I'm like, oh man, that was something, man. So yeah, I mean, that really did become kind of the crown jewel of the project. Like the singles, you know, I love how it turned out and what we did with it, and people responded to it. Like they checked it out, and it's just one of those things you put out, you know, something you could believe in and you think is quality, and it resonates. Like a lot of people who we know, who have known us and have been working on this, they saw it and were like, whoa, I didn't know that's what you guys were doing. I can't tell you. I didn't
know it was going to be a whole production. I'm like, get used to this.
I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and been like, oh, I didn't know Chelsey danced. Like they saw that video and they were like, I mean, I've gotten that comment multiple times. They were like, oh, we thought she'd like do the singer thing and she'd be like kind of la-di-da. And they were like, they saw that, were like, oh, she put some reps in on that. Like they really did bring kind of all your disciplines together, because, you know, you I don't even know if you've said it yet. You know, you started in that world.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to go back a little bit, and you mentioned the DJing stuff, and then you mentioned the graffiti art and the dancing side. So what you want to give people a little bit of insight into your background and where the desire to have those things involved in your current project comes from?
Sure. So I'm from South Florida, and when I was younger, I was heavily involved in the hip hop scene down there, in Miami especially. And I was just obsessed with the 4 elements of hip hop: graffiti, breaking, DJing, and MCing. And when I lived down there, I went to FIU, and we were training down there. We were training breaking. And I met this guy named Rock Soul. Shout out to Rock Soul Miami. And he was an MC, and he also was a B-boy. And he kind of took me under his wing, and because I told him I was a singer, and he really showed me like how to write and how to just believe in myself. And I joined their band, Alpha Q, which was a rock hip hop band. But I always knew I wanted to sing. I was just very, very shy. Even in the hip hop world, I was very shy. I was only expressive around people that I was comfortable around, my friends and stuff like that. But most of the time I just sit in the corner and just watch and observe. But I would watch what kind of songs got people hype and like how they would dance to it. And a lot of people think that it's all like rap, but a lot of the music that people dance to at jams and whatever is like James Brown and funk and soul and Sharon Jones. And so I just started like coming up with playlists and back then burning CDs and learning like b-boy songs. And I always knew from back then that I wanted to create music to have people dancing, and I just fell in love with funk and soul and went down the rabbit hole with that. So and I have a lot of friends that are, you know, DJs and graffiti artists, and I used to bomb when I was younger, like on the city bus, and you know, go tag some trains. And so I've always been like intertwined in that world. So, but there's only so far you could go as a vocalist in the hip hop world. Like, I'm not a rapper. I love rap. I love conscious rap. I love, you know, classic hip hop. I'm always going to love it. It kept me out of a lot of trouble, honestly. And it got me into a lot of trouble, but we won't go there. But so that's when I mentioned Andre. Ow, your fucking tail. Sorry, guys. She's a strong girl.
That would be our dog, Melody.
This is Melody, the boss bitch of the night. So yeah, I don't know what I was saying, but that's why I always wanted to incorporate hip hop and live art and all that stuff, graffiti, because I want to like be authentic to who I am. I don't want to lose that, even though I'm in a different world now, you know, experimenting with different genres and being in the jam band scene and all that stuff. I don't want to lose that. So of course people haven't seen that. People that haven't lived in South Florida and lived that life won't ever understand. But I want to show them, you know, it's who I am. Those are my formative years.
Yeah.
So.
And then a lot of people know your background, Chris, as far as like coming. Well, why don't you give some insight?
Yeah, I mean, I came from the backwoods in the country.
Total opposite, guys.
Yeah, a very, very what is it? Beverly Hillbillies-esque upbringing.
Yeah.
Coming to Jacksonville, I'll never forget running into you guys and was like, "It's so cool! I moved to the big city, and you guys moved." We're like, "Yeah, it's cool to move to like a suburb town. Like this is really sick." But I always, you know, I was really adept musically, and I started band in like 6th grade and picked up guitar around the same time and had a knack for it, and always wanted to play music, and kind of always heard from pretty much everyone up around that area, like that's not really something people do, because they're like up there's not like a gigging scene, you just don't really know people that do that. There's people that do it, but that's not what people do, you know, like that's what they do. And so the further along that I got, my folks were always super supportive. Like I figured I wanted to do music school. They're like, yeah, go for it. But even still, they're like, maybe you could be like a music lawyer, a music teacher. You could do this and that. And the further along I got through UNF and everything, like the playing is always what's like kind of been the main thing and has always taken off. So like musically, it's always been about like the performance of the playing and like where that can kind of take you. And so I've been a side guy for a lot of stuff. I've been kind of in a supporting role for a lot of stuff. But with this group, it's like I get a voice musically, which is where my voice is anyway, like through my instrument, but just also through arranging and like stuff like that. I've always kind of had a bit of a knack for it, where like maybe dancing or lyrics or melodies are the thing that comes easy to some people. It was just like harmony and arrangement and stuff like that is just what comes. So like it was cool to like find someone who had such like, you know, a idea of lyrics and vision, and like kind of needed the rest of it, which is the thing I didn't
perfect
have.
pair.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's, you know, some yin and yang stuff. So I was like, with this, it was like, all right, cool. I fit that role, and like have really developed it over the years, like through other groups and stuff like that. That's kind of given me the knowledge I need to bring back to this thing. You know, there's been a lot of training grounds and stuff. So, I mean, it's all, the background and the upbringing has all been like very kind of music driven. I don't know. I'm a bit of a musicologist. Like I love finding stuff to listen to. Like I just am always looking for the next cool thing, and that can come in pretty much any shape or form. So like influences are all over the table.
Yeah.
I started, like, my dad had a bunch of classic rock and stuff, and he was, like, my folks are not the biggest music fans, but like my mom, liked good music, like top 40 stuff and what was on the radio. And my dad was big on like Green Day and Guns N' Roses and Steely Dan. So like found some of these early influences. And then my buddy Alex Baum and I would grow up and play guitar pretty frequently, and he got me hip to like blues and R&B and soul. And then off that, my buddy Will Phillips showed me, like, he got me introduced to Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, and that like blew everything open. I was like, oh man, bluegrass jazz fusion, that's I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of showed me what could be done. And then from there, like, UNF showed me all kinds of music. Like James Hogan got me turned on to every guitar player there ever was, and just sent me down all these different rabbit holes. And that kind of sparked, musical interest and influence in basically everything. So like with some of these tunes that we write, it's like they could go anywhere because they can go anywhere. You know what I mean? Some of them have evolved like a lot. There was the Take Me tune started as a country tune, essentially, and ended up in this funky place.
Yeah,
But
which I think is a big improvement from what it was originally.
Yeah, so much so.
I like the original version too, where it almost had, like you're saying, like a country, almost like folky,
like almost a swing esque,
And then you guys turn into like this kind of like funkier soul kind of thing. Because just got more of a groove to it now.
Yeah, and I think like there's this mutual love for groove because you can dance to groove, and you can funk out to groove as a musician, but you can also add so many things on top of a groove, some complexity and stuff. But if the groove's there, people are dancing. So it's kind of this. It's not Snarky Puppy, it's not jazz, it's not anything like that. But Michael League had this thing that he said it's like about connecting the brain and the booty. And I took that to heart because it's like, yeah, you can do both at the same time. You know what I mean? If people are moving and they're dancing and they're having a great time, you can also hit this whole crowd of people that are like, they don't express that way. Like you and I are not dance floor guys,
right.
Usually speaking, but we can appreciate some great music, simple, complex, whatever. If it's good, it's good.
I've seen you on the dance floor.
Don't talk about me when I've had my beers, guys. That's not cool.
That's when Chris comes meet me in the alley.
This is why we brought him in, folks.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Nothing like PK at 2 in the morning with Caleb. He takes good care of you, though. He takes you to Wawa afterwards. It's a really good time.
I still haven't fully hopped on board the Wawa train.
I'm a Wawa
Really?
girl.
Wawa is...
Fuck Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
That was a good unpopular opinion.
It's a really good...
Damn it.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I found some love for Buc-ee's. Wawa, though. Caleb's kept the Wawa in St. Augustine supported and alive for years. I mean, I didn't know that it's... So you work there how often? 2 or 3 nights a week?
Two or 3 nights a week.
At Wawa or PK?
In St. Augustine.
In St. Augustine.
At PK.
Okay.
Prohibition.
You work at Wawa?
But so we had a couple gigs back to back down there, and the rendezvous was always Wawa on the way home. Every time. And he has an order that he always puts in. He got me so hip to it. He's got the app. He keeps Wawa going.
I have the app too. The app's great. You get free.
I've been cutting back recently.
Oh.
I've been needing to, but
Yeah,
I remember the first time I heard about Wawa was before they opened up in Florida. They were just like a Northeast kind of thing. Or like an East Coast kind of thing. And then it was when I was on tour with Rock and Jake, and he made this whole big thing about Wawa being the greatest place. And we walked in there, and I was like, dude, it's a gas station with a deli. What's the big deal? And like, it's evolved more since then. I think it's like better now.
yeah.
But like, I don't really care for the whole like gas station experience.
Oh my gosh.
What are you
Like
talking,
Buc-ee's
man?
and
Anton
Wawa.
eats taquitos from 7-Eleven.
Look, man.
Okay, you can't
Goddamn
lie
right.
to us.
Look, man.
Goddamn
Look,
right.
man.
You can get it delivered to your pump when you're pumping gas if you have the app.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
so fun.
wild. It's a little
and they have
treat.
Cuban coffee. They have colada, cordito, all that.
So you guys come from a city, so that's why you don't appreciate gas station culture. Because you guys have been to my house. It's the closest city is 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
The closest thing to it's a gas station, which is 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
So when the closest thing to your backwoods home is a gas station, you just go there to get out of the house. You know what I mean? Like,
Your big outing.
It's the big outing, and they don't have them down here. But the best gas stations are Sheetz.
Sheet.
You been to a Sheetz?
They're like a
think
truck
so.
driver.
It's kind of like a Wawa, but better.
Unless we went to one up when we went up to your house.
We probably passed by one. I don't know
One that had a whole deli in it.
I can't remember which. Maybe we did stop at one. I don't know. It's Wawa, but the. But
Oh, we did. It was like it was the high. It was like off an exit like by Charlotte, I think.
yeah.
And it was like they had like a coffee shop and like it was like a whole thing.
The restaurant. It's like what Wawa has, but more options. I think the food's a little better. It's no Buc-ee's, but
Buc-ee's does have the best food, I will
It's
say.
like a cult, though. It's
here's
like,
the thing. It is like a cult, and we stopped again recently. I did a gig in Orlando, and the band stopped and went in one because two of the guys had never been in one, and the look of amazement I've never been with someone up until then who had been to a Buc-ee's for the first time in their life, but the look on their faces when they walked in, it was Kevin Ramos. He had never been to Buc-ee's. He walked in and was just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. This is the whitest place I've ever been in my life.
You probably felt like a fish out of water.
Oh, dude. Yeah. But he quickly grew legs and started walking around. It was pretty impressive. He was like, jerky, brisket.
they sell like real leather like stuff there too.
Yeah. And we were lucky enough to visit when Bucky himself was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we got some pictures with Bucky.
Oh, my God, dude.
It's starting to win me over, man. Like,
It's like Disney World for white trash.
it is, but like Craig made a great point. He was driving back after that Orlando gig. He stopped both on the way there and back from the gig.
Oh my God.
And I'll speak on his behalf. He texted us at 2 a.m. and was like, "Guys, this is the best steak burrito I've ever had in my life."
It is good food, like better food than most gas stations.
Maybe
Well, and
I
if
have
you're-
to try it because
Well, it's like
before having a strong opinion.
think about it in context. If it's 2 a.m. and you got to stop somewhere and use the bathroom, get a bite to eat, you go in. The bathrooms are spotless. The food is fresh and hot at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Solid.
It's for what you can get. You know what I mean? Even, Waffle House is open, but you got to stop and do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Taco Bell's closed, long closed. McDonald's, the 24 hours are gone.
But then when you see like a whole bachelorette party wearing Bucky swimsuits, like you're like, you guys think you're cute, and do you think that's funny? But it's not
not.
cute. It's not funny. Y'all are all the same. You're not being different. you know?
Yeah.
it's
Like
not.
everyone claiming Bucky. It's like you hear so many people saying that,
Yeah.
and I just think they're just regurgitating what everyone else says. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a trend.
The repping it is the weird part. It's like you wouldn't rep Walmart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't put on a Walmart ad.
That's like why it's so brilliant because they've somehow like branded
yeah.
like this gas station.
Yeah.
And they've done it. They just do. First off, they pay their employees well.
Yeah.
Everyone that works there has a great attitude for the most part.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have like the gift shop where everything is, but it's not like a Love's or something like that where it's
totally
like,
where you're in danger when you walk inside.
well, I like Love's depending on where they're at, but like the merchandise that they have is not specific to Love's. It's like it's specific to whatever state or city that you're in.
Yeah.
Where it's like Buc-ee's is no. You're gonna buy stuff here like souvenirs, but you're gonna buy Buc-ee's souvenirs.
Yeah, get bucked. You're getting Buc-ee's.
Yeah, you're getting bucked.
Another.
Which has a whole different context when I was growing up. That shit.
What does that mean to you, brother?
Buck pride.
So the other thing too about Buc-ee's is you go into the bathrooms. It's all local art that you can buy.
Oh, really?
From local artists, original stuff.
That's the coolest thing said. Are we still on Bucky's right now?
I'm still.
Dude, we're never getting. We talked about the record. It's out. You can stream it on all platforms. Check out our social medias at Alchematic Band. Now let's talk about this Bucky. No. Anyway. This is a first for the pod, by the way. My producer hat is kicking in, and I just can't not bring this up. You're the first person to find the button that kicks the feet out.
Well, guys, I bought this couch, so.
This is just a little fun fact. This is out of all the episodes, you're the first one to do it. I just think that should be acknowledged. That's pretty cool.
This used to be in our living room in our old house in Riverside, which is the dopest apartment we ever had.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. You can check out episodes
Oh, yeah.
98 through 115 there.
Wait,
If you
Is that the exact episodes?
I think so.
Oh my God, that's Chris is doing his job.
It's not. I don't freaking know. Go check.
I thought
Go check them out. It's pretty close. It's in
close.
that.
It's close.
It's in that range.
Low 90s.
That's what I'm saying. I'm spitballing there, but it's
Yeah.
about give or takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Dylan Adams episode, Solo. There's some
Solo,
great
yeah.
episodes in there. You got to go check out the apartment studio.
Yeah, that was the place.
Not the studio apartment, the apartment studio.
Yeah. Definitely, it was a dope place. So what's the plan now with as far as the record is concerned? Are you guys gonna try and do some traveling on it, or mostly just try and do local stuff? What's the game plan?
Yeah, keep it rolling. Like it took so long to get this momentum up to here, and there's still a great crew around us. Like we found Kevin Ramos, he's been a part of it. Andre's been still involved. So we've got some stuff that we wrote over the years that it'd be great if that came out at some point, and it's still very much in the demo stages. So
many songs. Though.
yeah, a lot. And we've got,
it's the fun part.
we've got people that we trust now to collaborate with and expand these ideas on a little bit. So super excited to see where that's going to go. And then playing live, we'd love to get around Florida and the Southeast a little bit.
We're talking about maybe doing a Florida run in April.
Yeah.
With Sean Pfaffman, who has also played with us, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
So.
And he's got his music that he's been putting out. He's been on the pod. Everyone's been on the pod.
Yeah.
He showed me some stuff he's working on. Some kind of, it's really similar to the stuff we've been working on, like super hip, funky stuff. Like he's a Southern guy and loves his Meters influence and Louisiana stuff, and it's got great vocals that he's been cooking up. So just finding people that have kind of like-minded interest in putting music and shows on. If there's cool opportunities that come through that fits what we do and what we kind of vibe with and believe in, we'll try and hop on those. But at this point, the music's out, and we'd like to think that it speaks for itself and what we do and what we believe in. So maybe it's a little easier to knock on doors and show people what we're about, and just keep bringing it to people and keep writing and being creative and getting the word out.
We still have like a lot more visuals coming with this album as well, like lyric videos.
Mm-hmm.
We have footage from the EP show. So like I said earlier, sustaining.
Yeah.
But while we're doing that, doctor some of these songs that we wrote. Because during the pandemic, me and Chris, there's one day I wrote like 3 songs in one day, 4 songs in one day.
Yeah.
We really got to like channel our writing.
Totally.
And like I said earlier, I have concepts. So I definitely want to have visuals, definitely want to collaborate with different types of artists on all levels, and do more visuals. And yeah.
So what do you think, obviously the fun part of being in a band and putting music out is the creative part, even though it can be difficult.
Yeah.
But like the most rewarding part is obviously like the writing and just coming up with ideas and stuff. What this whole process from the inception and the writing to the release of the music, what's been, do you think, the hardest obstacle to overcome?
I mean, I think learning how to do it was the biggest obstacle, because like you don't know until you get in there and do it.
Yeah,
and that was like
no type thing.
Yeah, and that was almost it's almost like a little paralyzing in a sense that you like. There's so many options out there in this day and age. It's like which one's the right one, which one's this, which one's that, and it's like so many ways to go. There were so many points along the way where it was like, all right, do we go option A, B, and C, and that can almost paralyze you a little bit until you kind of get in there and get a feel for it and go, oh, you kind of get it now. So like,
right.
It's the process itself was maybe the hardest part, which is a weird thing to say, but it's like
I think the business aspect of the process is what he's saying. So there's like no rule book or anything.
Yeah,
I have so many indie musician books, but they change every year.
Yeah.
And then like some books say, spend money and try to get on people's playlists. And then when like they tell you to spend money and you talk to people, you get a weird vibe and you go with your intuition. You're like, I'm not spending money to get on a playlist. And some people are like, don't do that. There's just no rules. It's hard to check the sources. You could talk to people that are doing it. I think it's just trial and error.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the biggest fear was to put something out and it just flop. but you just got to keep going and be consistent with it, I think.
Yeah.
I think navigation through the business aspect of it is the hardest. And then using your gut, you just have to use your intuition. And because there's some things that some of my friends have used that are artists, some tactics that I don't feel right about doing, about getting followers.
Yeah.
And we all know people who have bought followers. And initially, if someone looks at it, they're like, damn, they got 15K followers. I'd rather have 2,000 authentic followers and have people actually engage with what we're doing and actually believe in us, you know?
Yeah, well, there's also easy, especially nowadays, where everybody, you know, including talent buyers, promoters, agents, managers, all the industry people know what it all looks like. So when they look at somebody that has 50K followers and they're seeing engagement of, you know, 1% on people's posts and stuff, you know something's not right.
Right.
And it's a turn off to people.
Yeah.
The streaming side's a little bit more difficult because it's hard to know what's real and what's not as far as bots go. Numbers are just numbers, and you can look at the data and see where it's all coming from, but it's really difficult to know what's authentic and what's not authentic.
Yeah.
And, you know, and those numbers are like, you know, just getting onto playlists and stuff seems to be the way to go. But then it's like, do you pay somebody to get onto a playlist, or do you just start reaching out to independent playlist curators and getting on playlists like that? Like, there's all these different ways, but that's super time consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as like it's the same process as trying to book gigs, where you just have to reach out and you send them the whole spiel, and hopefully they get back to you. If they don't, you got to follow up, and then you know, and it sounds to people that are probably listening that are like, that doesn't sound like a whole lot to do. It's one thing after another. It's a bunch of little things after a little thing that you have to not only be doing but keep tabs on too.
Right.
If you got 100 emails out to people, you got to remember who didn't get back to you and who did, and then make those follow-ups, and that's just on you know, getting your music heard. Then it's about creating content and then putting out content on TikTok and Instagram, and then it's about, you know, consistently putting it out, like timelining, you know, so organizing all the stuff, how it's going to look. And then you have, like, you know, your PR side. Do you want to get on the podcast? You want to get on radio shows?
Do you want to spend money getting on a music blog?
Yeah.
You have to also, people hitting you up, you have to see if they're like legit or not.
Right.
I personally don't think that it's all about numbers and streams. I know that a lot of people like emphasize that. I think it's about building a music career for the long haul and for the long term, and I don't think a lot of people look at that. They're just trying to like create clickbait or like do something that's in a fad right now, but that's
trying
not
to hop on trends.
That's not like timeless music. And I think honestly, like, me and him obviously are like pretty much opposites, but I think the reason why we work so well together is because from the beginning, I know he's worked with other singers and I worked with other guitar players trying to get something off the ground, but from the beginning he was about his shit and I was about my shit, and we both want to be old and gray on stage doing the shit forever. You know, we are like very committed to living creative lives and fulfilling that every single day. So regardless that he's from the backwoods and I'm from the hip hop scene, like it works. And we made a commitment to do this together no matter what comes out, that's why we're kind of genreless. That's why we have so many different influences, because we decipher and we pick out what we like, and it just is, and that's like true originality.
Yeah, like, just to keep on that, it's like trends change, the media that puts those trends out change, you know, like stuff gets popular and then it fades away, but like you go and find all these records, there's a common thing through all of them, even from the 60s and even further earlier out. It's like there's groove, they're talking about real things that people can relate to, and you know, you go with the flow with whatever time you're in. Like we've played the game to an extent on, you know, social media and all that stuff. And, you know, like you said, the important thing is just like make something that you think is going to stand. You know, if you bow to the trends, you might ride with the trends, you know. And
you just got to be authentic to yourself. And people, I think that there's a connection that people have to you if you're authentic to yourself, if you show up how you are in that moment and you don't put on a front. There's like a connection that you can't get any other way. And like, we're not trying to be anything, we're just being ourselves. And that's why it's Alchematic, because we have all these musicians from different backgrounds, and we just come together, and it kind of alchemizes into something else.
Yeah.
That like it takes on its own life.
Yeah, I'm curious also about the trend thing too, because I feel like every generation has like a version of a trend, whether it's like, you know, something in the ether of pop culture, like in the 60s, you have like the hippie movement, and you had like all these bands trying to be that. But then you have, you know, some stuff that was so authentically that it broke that barrier. It might have looked to be the part, and maybe there was a certain image that kind of was being translated, but the music was like transcended the trend. Because you think about the Beatles, who evolved, and obviously were trying to keep up with the trends by, you know, adopting the image and the language. But if you listen to the music, there wasn't really anything that they were doing that somebody else was, right? Like, I mean, even bands that ended up having timeless hits, like the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds, they weren't doing what the Beatles were doing.
Yeah.
You know, and then there are people like Hendrix and Janis Joplin that were so, they were pushing the envelope in different ways, I think. And I think that, you know, those are examples of people that used trends to get notoriety, but because there was so much substance beyond the trend, there was staying power.
Yeah.
Like they commanded their piece of that time of music, you know.
Right.
Totally.
And I think so. I guess what I'm wondering is if like trends are something to ignore, or are they like a tool to try and use at the risk of fading with the trend. But if the music is there, if the substance is there in the art, maybe the trend can still be useful just to get it seen. I don't know. You know, I'm curious about that.
It's a dangerous game, I think. You know, like if you try to, because then it seems like if you try to play to the trend, you're pandering to the trend, versus like if you do something and the trend falls in line with what you're doing. Like that's the sweet spot, I think, of like riding that wave, you know.
I also think that the trends work differently now than they did 50 or 60 years ago, just because the way time moves now is so much quicker. And trends now aren't really about anything like
they're like on a 48-hour cycle.
Yeah,
it seems like, you know,
and they're not about anything. It's like you saw like even the hippie movement, whether you agree with it or not, there was a message in all of that.
Sure.
Right. Whereas now, what are the trends? Well, it's taking a piece of ham and slapping your partner in the face with it, you know, on TikTok, and then it's like, oh well, and you have people like Kevin Hart and The Rock doing those things on TikTok and get it just because they want to hop on the trend.
The slap battle thing.
Yeah, slap battle thing, and it's just like, well, is that something that that artists should be doing? But like,
No.
It seems like there's nothing there. There's nothing there that like makes me want to like listen to what you have to say.
See, I feel like that's a micro analysis of the trend in general. Like, yeah, there's these little sub things happening, but the whole trend is viralness. Like, I think if you're looking at it, like that's what the trend is.
But that's
now.
not. But going viral, I don't think is a trend. That's every generation's trying to get awareness on a level that just permeates culture. Right.
But I think in almost a meta way that has been spun almost 360 on top of itself, and like it's become self-aware of that in a sense that like it's a hard thing for me to articulate, but it's like it's aware of what it's trying to do, and then it's reaching out further to do that. Like say like the 60s, like there was a radicalized kind of peace movement and this and that, and they wanted it to be known. But it was like they're gonna do it by doing the thing. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna go out and protest or write the songs,
right?
And they have an agenda.
The movement and all
this thing is like they want it to be known, but there's nothing to stand on. They want to be known by doing whatever. So it's a little more self-aware of where it's trying to get.
Yeah, it's going viral for the sake of going viral.
Right. It doesn't matter.
Viral because there was a real message being perpetrated.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of that's the trend now versus like any other era. You know, it's like maybe not as aware of itself, and I feel like that's just like the thing, you know. And there's been some great funny stuff that comes out of it. There's been some cool stuff that comes out of it.
Hilarious.
It's amazing.
I love TikTok and all the trends. Like, it all cracks me up. I'm just curious if musicians, if there's sub or just artists in general. It's just not limited to musicians. Everyone's got to use these platforms now. But like, I'm curious if there's actual substance in the art, if trying to use a trend to get awareness is a good thing, because the substance ultimately will give you staying power.
Right.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. Or have the trends become so watered down that it makes you look like you're just chasing something, and therefore negates the substance, whether it's there or not.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it just relies on the quality of the artist, you know, like, you know, and like even if they do a trend, you can recognize substance in that. And
there's different trends too. Like, look at Scary Pockets. They take songs that they might not like normally and then make it their own.
Yeah, that's a trend that I enjoy.
Yeah, there's like,
I'm on board
I think it's like case by case, because there's a lot of artists that did what like record labels told them to do just to get their foot in the door, and then once they're in, they did their own fucking thing, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I think it's just case by case. Like, I'll slap you with a tortia.
Yeah.
like that.
You would do that without a video. You know what I mean?
I've earned it plenty of times.
A cold one too, not warming that up. Getting real.
I like, and I guess there are good trends. Like, that seems to be more of a trend now, where artists are just reinterpreting songs and not writing as much because of the demand for new
or if they are writing, they're writing in a way that it's almost like jingle writing. But you've seen some of these TikTok people that write 10, 15, 30 second just like masterpieces of songs that are content wise no substance, but they're great productions. Like, they're influenced by like all the pop music of the last 30, 40 years, and write just incredible music that's no different than like, you know, a jingle you would see somewhere. It's just like, it's there. It's kind of in the background of culture. It's not what it, you know, but you see it and go, wow, that was
and then the trend
incredible.
is use this sound.
Yeah.
Use this audio.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that's good for artists though, because if you can get your like
people,
look, ask Madison how's that go? Is how that's going?
Like, the people have been using her music for all kinds of content that they're putting out, and it's made her go viral. Now she's getting all this attention, which is great.
And she didn't even try. It just happened, right?
Literally, she just.
That's like, see, I feel stupid being like, use this sound.
Yeah.
You having a video of me going like this, like, that's right. Like, I just feel like shit's corny sometimes.
Yeah, and it's the only way to do it authentically is just to do it. Like, that's the thing, is like you said, she didn't set out to try and do it.
Yeah.
She in her case knew that it was like a numbers game of like, all right, you know, you just
keep putting
stuff out, and she's like, she'll record 5 or 6 covers at a time, and then that blip, other people found it and used it. Like, she didn't even be like, use this thing, and then once that caught on, then it became well, y'all are already using this thing, so keep doing it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you play the trend game after it's become a trend. Like, if you're setting out to do it, that's when it gets corny. It just doesn't work.
We're trendsetters, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and trendsetters.
We're the trendsetters, and I can't tell you how many times there's been like new music that I don't know, but then I see someone else doing like a 15-second cover on the piano of it, and and I like the cover better, and I'm like, that song's fucking dope. And then I go and look up the original. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like something I would do, is like make a pop song that everyone's listening to and do a 15-second cover and do like all this vocal agility or whatever the fuck. I think that's a creative way to put your own spin on something that's trending.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of like creative things you could do, but like there's certain shit that, I mean, like seeing like, I don't want to shame anyone.
But what? I mean, you don't have to
seeing
name
like
anybody.
these like old ladies doing TikTok dances in public and like shit like that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't
Each
know.
their own. If they're enjoying doing it, that's
Yeah, I
fine.
mean, like,
there's no substance, or like, I won't take away from like dancers and the people that are like creating these great cool things that might go viral, but like, if you're just filming yourself,
you can tell if they're trying to stay relevant, though. There's certain
Yeah.
There's a
people,
difference.
like reality stars or whatever, they're trying to do whatever's trending.
Just to stay relevant.
Right. You could tell, like, you could just tell.
There was somebody at the Orlando gig we played recently, and they sat right in front of the stage, and they were by themselves, and they were on TikTok live eating a salad, and they were just hanging out, talking about the salad, completely ignoring us
People
playing.
watch people eat, though.
And that's
yeah.
and that's the thing, is like, that's
Just that.
that's something you can do. That's a trend. People are on it. I don't know how much creativity goes into that. It's like, it's cool to jump on it and do the thing if people like it. I don't know what's creative about eating a salad in front of a camera.
Well, I think what people are more interested in is the person's opinion on the thing, so they can know whether or not they want to do it themselves.
Or they like the
Sure.
sound of people eating. Like, that's
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
the
thing.
ASMR stuff.
Like,
yeah.
people, I've
they
seen
like the
videos of
sound
like
of us
dogs like
ripping
drinking.
in the background.
Yeah, there's a couple people we know that are really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I don't know though. I just think I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to any of it. I think that's kind of the point though, is it's just once you're in the process of making music and putting stuff out, it's just those are the questions I think that needed to be asked, and that
Yeah.
you need to, and that people need to kind of keep in the back of their mind, like, how do you want to do it? And there really isn't a right or wrong way. I think it depends
Yeah.
on what you want out of the thing, and then what just logically makes sense to you to do.
If it's an outlet to be creative, it's your outlet, whether it's short form, long form, whether you intend it to have staying power or if you want it to be a flash in the pan. Like, if you're using it creatively, then awesome. Like the music we wrote for this EP is not short form. It's not, like the music itself doesn't have, like, it's not super TikTok crazy. There's things we can do that point back to the music that isn't the music itself, but that's kind of where our creative energy went. Some people's is to do the kind of spinning arrow thing that points back to the thing. That's where they get super creative, and there's been elements of like everything that we've done I think stands on its own, but like, we enjoy TikTok, but we're not the maybe the top TikTok creators, so
Maybe not at this point, but maybe that changes it.
maybe so.
I think with like Alchematic, it's less about, because sometimes that just seems like you're just like feeding your ego. I think
Little
it's
bit.
less about like feeding your ego and more about trying to make an impact with your music.
Yeah.
Saying
But
something.
also being on the platforms where the most people are at is a way to reach the most people.
It's
for you
important to
make an
be
impact.
on social media. It's very important to be on social media. That's just like, but like, like you said, the tortilla thing, like,
Yeah, it's a matter of like just finding out what works for your brand,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's what the whole thing is.
You could have each band member go on one platform and go 100%, and it's still, it probably wouldn't scratch the surface. It's just like, do it how you feels right,
yeah.
and that'll reward you. And you could strike gold and get lucky and explode. You never know.
Yeah.
Just keep doing
Right.
what feels right.
I think that we're actually going to do, so Andre, Satellite Frank, he does this like car series where he DJs in the car.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And he's going to like remix some of our songs, probably to make it more like poppy or marketable or dancey or whatever. And that could be better for the kids
That's a
on TikTok.
Well, that's
Yeah.
a super popular thing to do, where
Right.
where artists are releasing singles and then send them to DJs to remix them and re-release them to get more awareness to their thing. I mean, Dua Lipa did that with her last album. It was like she like sent out. I mean, like there was hundreds of different remixes of each song.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
And-
It was whole albums of just
Yeah.
other. I mean, you wouldn't even recognize
One
the
thing
song.
I do like
Yeah.
too, sorry to interrupt,
No.
is like when people do duets on
Yeah.
TikTok, like Teddy Swims did that.
Mm-hmm.
And he sings this part and then someone takes over and then they write a part of the song.
Right,
Like I
right.
think that's cool. That's a cool way to connect. Like if it's something like that, I think that's cool. I just, connecting with people is important as well.
Yeah, again, that's why, and that's a trend that's a cool one to hop on for
Right.
artists. It's not like, super gimmicky and super like look at me. It really is about trying to connect and put yourself out there, you know, and that's what I think the most. If the platform, social media, and all the hate that it gets from people is understandable, but there really is a positive side of it as well.
Yeah.
If you can keep away from all the distraction shit, you know.
It really is like a mental game on your part. You're like on the individual's part, because like it is. I mean, we've talked about this at least a few times, but you get out of it what you put into it, and if it's something that's purely just feeding creativity and a place for you to find creative stuff, that's what you'll get out of it. And if you put a lot of negativity into it, that's what's going to come back. It can be super toxic, but it can also be great for what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
None of it can consume what you do, but I haven't had the negative experience that some people have had with it. And I feel like that's because of what I choose to consume on there is like stuff that makes me want to put it down and then go do the thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of the hate comes from people that don't understand it.
Yeah.
Because they don't use it, right? All they do is they just look at the state of society, and they're like, oh, well, they point to one aspect of it, like, well, it's social media, it's the cell phones and social media. It's like, dude, okay, I mean, like, every generation has something that served as a distraction. It used to be, when I was growing up, it was like television was a distraction, and now you're hearing people of the Gen X generation talking about, well, you know, the problem with kids today is they don't watch television anymore. Now it's like and they're not getting any culture. There's no culture happening because there's no television happening.
I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah,
it's out there.
It's all the time, dude.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's because that's what's so hilarious about it is that, like, growing up, like if you were, you know, a Gen Xer or even like a millennial of my age, people would always complain, well, the kids are too, like the boomers are always complaining about the kids are too into the television, they're not going outside, they're not interacting anymore.
Now they're not watching enough.
Now they're not watching enough because they're on the phones and they're not getting the culture and the substance that traditional television shows had to offer, and like the commentary on society, right? And there is something to that, but that's just the point, though, is that all previous generations don't understand the new technology and therefore are shitting on it rather than trying to understand, like, where can the useful shit come from.
Yeah.
Right.
Television had plenty of garbage on it, okay, at all states of existence. But there was also a lot of good information on there. There were culture shifting shows.
Yeah, like Ancient Aliens and Pawn Stars and all those really cultural moments, you know.
Talking about, like, you know, like Cheers.
Labor of love.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Opposite ends of the spectrum, but same page.
Yeah. But, like, you know, you think about like Cheers and later on Seinfeld and Friends, and like there were like these commentaries on social dynamics in society, right? And there was value in that because people would take this and bring it to their everyday life. It has that kind of effect. And nowadays social media can offer the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that generations like millennials and Gen Z have a much better understanding on how to navigate these things because we grew up with it, right? I mean, granted, we didn't have TikTok growing up, but social media was introduced when I was in high school.
Yeah.
We had MySpace, and then we had Facebook, and then we had Instagram, Twitter.
Top 8.
And the top 8, which don't get me started on the drama that would fucking go.
Yeah,
that would happen with that. She's like, wait, why'd you take me off your top 8?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. You're not my top 8 anymore. Fuck you.
Oh my God, I had the best songs when you go on my MySpace.
Oh yeah, that was, for those who don't know, like MySpace, you could put music on the landing page. You could customize it with all kinds of colors. And,
we were coding our MySpace.
Yeah, it was like it was like your own personal website. You can have, like, you had your top 8, which is like all your top 8 friends, and then because it became so dramatic, you can then shift it to your top 16.
Yeah, that was
right. So and then you had like your MySpace wall, which you could post on, and that was public to all your followers and all your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Facebook came along and just kind of shift and was more accessible for people. Anyways,
Yeah, I love that you could poke people. MySpace ain't got nothing on the poke button.
dude, that was so obnoxious. I used to hate that.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Facebook.
What are you talking about? That was great.
But either way, my point being is that we grew up with social media and the dynamic that it created in social settings, schools, work, and all that. And now Instagram, even though Instagram came out when we were still pretty young, but like TikTok is the newer thing, and it's different. But I mean, I don't know. I think there's plenty of stuff on there that I find to be useful as an artist. I can see how people are creating new content, creative things that maybe I didn't think about, from a visual and video side of it to the music side of it. And there is information out there. You gotta go through some bullshit.
You gotta sift through it. But I agree to all that. It's out there.
Yeah, and it's fucking hilarious too.
I love it.
I don't really understand Twitter or Threads.
Threads is bullshit, and that can just go away.
Yeah.
Twitter is basically a combination of Facebook and Instagram, where you take text and you just put it in a town square like Instagram. Like Instagram is like a town square, but for now video, but mostly used to be for photographs.
Yeah.
And then so it just took the principle of Instagram and applied Facebook logic to it, basically.
Just
Good on them, totally.
Yeah. I don't really fuck with, I guess X now is what it's called. I don't really fuck with it because I just don't really have any.
Never.
I just share what I put on Instagram on X.
I just feel like it's a cesspool of conspiracy theories and crazy politics, and I just don't really care anymore.
I don't really involve myself in fighting with people online.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Anyways, you guys want to hit some unpopular opinions?
Always.
Let's fucking do it. You guys got Caleb, did Chris tell you about the unpopular opinion?
Dude, I didn't tell him where we were filming this. What are you talking?
He didn't even let me in the door. He made me walk around the back and everything.
All right, well, we do a segment called Unpopular Opinions where we go around, we state something that's pretty unpopular. It can be about whatever you want. We try and keep politics and religion out of it, though. But whatever you want, honestly. So if you weren't informed and you don't have one off the top of your head, we can go around us first, or...
I've got one right now.
He's a pretty opinionated guy.
What you got?
I don't get the hype of vinyls. And I am the youngest person in this room, but at a certain point, the fidelity of the music, you're losing it over time with the dust and dirt and everything. I get that's a characteristic people like, but I just don't understand vinyls. I've never purchased one for myself, at least. So, and I'm only saying this because Chris had something on his Instagram today. So.
Oh, nice. I did hit the record shop today, actually. Yeah.
I agree with you from that standpoint. I think that it ends up being more work to listen to music, especially because, most of us grew up or streaming came around pretty early on, so you can just put it on and just never have to think about it again, just leave it rolling.
Yeah.
And there is the part of listening to vinyls where you have to flip the record, and it's but the flip side to that, no pun intended,
Get out.
is that there is something about being present while listening and the experience of interacting with the experience, I
Definitely
guess, right?
The tangible,
flipping the record, and then you just have to be mindful of where you're at within the record, and then it makes you listen more. And then furthermore, the thing that everybody talks about is just the experience of opening the vinyl, the artwork, and seeing the list of producers and engineers and musicians, everyone that was kind of involved in that. There was a time where even just like your average fan of music could tell you who produced a record.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays it's just gone away.
Yeah.
Right.
Longest Google search to find something.
Yeah.
Who worked on this, and then it's
You
60
gotta go
people.
to page 2
Right.
of Google sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, also, I think back in the day, or not even too long ago, like people would know bodies of work rather than just singles or songs.
Yeah.
Right.
And they would know everything about the body of work, and it'd be like a story.
The music was written for the experience of a vinyl. Like there was a way that an order you put the songs, which I think people still kind of adhere to a point.
Yeah.
But if you're making it for an album, but like I think I definitely think it's a more three-dimensional experience with a vinyl.
That it is. I was gonna say I totally. It's not a fidelity thing. Like there's a couple of friends of ours that will say it is, and they'll invest in that side of it, and like But we had Brian Lester on, and he makes records, and he even point blank was like, yeah, that's not really what records is. It is the experience though. Like I went over to Tiger Records today. Part of it is just seeing what's there that day. You know what I mean?
Records,
like if you don't just order them online, like it's part of the hunt. Like today I snagged Oscar Peterson, Larry Carlton, Roy Buchanan, The Police, 2 West Montgomery records, all just because they had it there. It's less than $30, and it's like a collector thing too. You're like, oh, cool. And then just to double down, it is like the experience of like putting it on, listening to it. Like I have a record player at the house. I just put them on if I'm doing stuff in the house.
Yeah.
Like if I'm cooking, laundry, whatever. Like if it's a house activity, that's where I put music on, because like you're in a headspace of whatever that record is. That's what it's useful for. It's not. I can go find higher fidelity.
And then it gets scratched, and then you got to flip it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Then you wear them. Then you like one. Then you wear it out, and you got to find another one. And
I respect DJs who know how to
scratch.
Yeah, like who started on vinyls rather than these 12-year-olds that.
Okay, here we go.
Looking at you, satellite frat. Just messing.
But yeah, I have a record player and a collection, and I have to say that I only listen to it once in a while because a lot of them are scratched. Sometimes I want to listen to a particular song. It's hard to find, and then I got to flip it, and go upstairs and
I'd say
I'll just make a playlist.
I'd say 5% of my listening is vinyl. Generously.
That being said, though, vinyl is at an all-time high right now as far as sales go. Not all-time, but it's made a significant spike.
Oh yeah, you go to the hipster coffee shops. People bring their vinyl players.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's cool. I think there's something about the vintage side of it. I think that there is. Again, it's a more three-dimensional experience. I think it gives the listener more. It makes them buy into the thing more, because there's levels to it. It's not just pressing play on your phone and forgetting about it and just listen. It's like you have to open it up. You see the artwork. You read the notes in there and all the credits, and then you put it on the player. You take the needle. You put it on the thing, and
then you forget about it.
Well, no, because you can't, because the music stops and you have to flip it.
Right.
So it's like, so you have to be mindful when you're listening to it if you want to keep the experience going. Right.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm with you, Caleb. Like, I'm not really gonna I'm not gonna listen to it all the time myself.
You can't give him anything. I'm gonna hear about that for 3 weeks now, dude.
I do.
You just wasted a bunch of money on records.
Yeah, I appreciate like the experience though, and I do like to engage in it from time to time, but it's not my
it's a way
method of listening.
Yeah, and it's I liked the thing I found today. Like I picked up this Roy Buchanan album, and I found that Stanley Clarke playing on it, Will Lee, all these cats, and I'm huge fans of those guys. Had no clue they even knew who this guy was. Yeah. So I spent $2 to find that out, and that was worth it for me.
That's awesome though.
That was great. Great. That's super cool.
Good unpopular opinion.
I do think though that you should listen to the album even if you're not using the vinyl. I dislike the shuffle style of music.
Totally.
Yeah.
Me personally, just because I can't even keep up with the names, or if I'm just listening on shuffle, I'm like, I like this, don't know what this is, won't remember.
Yeah.
You can save it and whatnot, but there's no better way than hearing the transitions that were intended on the album and going straight through and seeing the difference going through the discography and being, wow, they've elevated this much, and just from fidelity or style and progression and everything. So
definitely
preach.
Yeah, especially music that's in like if they're releasing a full 12-track record or something, there was an intention in the order of the music. If you're a pop artist releasing singles, then you're probably not paying as much attention to the order of the songs on the record. But a band like, I don't know, Black Keys or something is definitely paying attention to that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
What you got, Chris?
I'll stick to my instrumental or instrument superiority vein. So I think whatever emotion lyrics can elicit from people, I think instrumentation and arrangement can elicit an equal emotion for pretty much everything lyrically. I won't say that it's done maybe as often, but I do think that it can match that emotional intelligence that like a well done lyric thing, it can take you to the same place.
Go ahead.
No, that's it.
I would agree with you, but I think it's all context based. Like it's got like if there are plenty of people that just automatically tune out if there's no lyrics.
Oh, totally. And I think you have to know what you're listening for. But some like like myself and like you and people like instrumentalists that's who can find like those same places. Like I know for me, well placed lyrics and like something that like kind of takes it to the same place can go there. And I think most musicians or people would probably say the same thing, but like general public, they would be like, no, dude, it's lyrics or like what tell you the story and make you sad and happy and this and that. But I just the music tells that story right along with it parallel.
Yeah, I mean that was probably the case before lyrics became a big thing. Like if you listen to like old classical music and stuff where there were no lyrics, but there was definitely, at least in a lot of it, but there was definitely there's definitely like a journey that you were being taken on.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I think. And then even for me, as someone who writes lyrics and is a fan of lyrical music, I can definitely be hit just as hard emotionally on something that doesn't have that. Like an example is that Mike Stern tune, Wishing Well.
Yeah.
That tune, the first time I heard it, it like almost brought me to tears. It was such a beautiful melody, and like you really kind of get where his head was at when he was writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And but conversely, if I listen to when I listen to Andre 3000,
yeah.
Like on some of the earlier Outkast stuff, I mean, dude, that just like blows my mind the way that he's able to do.
You in such a specific part of your, consciousness.
Yeah, I'm such a fan of wordplay. Also,
Sure.
like when it's done right. Like what was the lyric you told me earlier from that Nas tune?
He said, "They came here to do drugs, but you came to sing."
Yeah, and obviously you got to hear it.
You got to hear the context.
The context, but like it's basically
I know
just
I can.
Yeah. It's just and like the context is basically just saying like we're kind of all here in the same place, but you got to realize the difference between what you're doing, what they're doing.
Like,
Yeah.
don't get caught up.
Don't get caught up in the bullshit,
Nice.
And it's just and it's such a simple line, but it's so like
Obviously,
on the
it
nose.
Resonates with us.
Yeah.
Because we're fucking singers, and like people are always doing drugs around us, and
Yeah.
you gotta like stay, stable.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that was your unpopular opinion because.
Oh, boy.
Because mine was that I think that emotional reaction to music, or I don't know if reaction is the word, but you'll get what I'm saying. Emotional reaction to music is more important than music theory.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too.
Oh, okay, that's surprising.
Yeah, people think that like, theory. I mean, like theory is a tool to like get to that place. You know what I mean? Like it's like, or it can help you find a way to get that
happening.
place.
I think it's just more of a way of understanding what's like the thing that's happening.
I don't know if it's so. I mean, I know
not from an emotional like obviously not like to understand what's happening neurologically that's giving you the emotion, but just more so like musically speaking. Okay, well, I'm listening to this thing and I'm having an emotional reaction to it. Not what's that emotional reaction, but what's happening in the music.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, to explain the emotional reaction. That's what theory I think is.
It's
best for.
I think it goes a step further to me is like there's, especially when it comes to writing, like it's used to explain all this stuff, but it also like when in the creative process it like shows you different places you can go.
Totally.
Like it's not like using it. It's a tool, and it's like so like we can go to this, like I know if I'm writing a progression and I get to this place, I get to this chord, I can go maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, and each of those have a different feeling and intent, and like that matters to go with the song. So I've got different like color palettes to choose from on my paintbrush.
Definitely.
But you pick the one that emotionally fits the song and the lyrics the best. It's like it's a tool only to get to that place, and then maybe none of those work, and you go to a completely different place that doesn't make sense or doesn't have the collegiate backing, you know what I mean? But like you can analyze it and go, well, I know that it doesn't make sense, but that's why it fits so well, or something like that.
Yeah.
But how it hits you and why it hits you is important. I just like knowing what it is.
No, I think that
because because I've spent the time to make that a thing.
I
So
think
like,
musicians should understand what's happening, and I think that at a point that you get stuck in a writing scenario, I think it's a good thing to be able to like call on as a tool.
yeah,
But also, like, and I'll speak for myself when I'm writing, I try not to jump to that first. And I usually won't because it's not instinctively, like, I didn't grow up learning that stuff. So instinctively, it's not where I'm going to go. I'm going to try and hear the idea first. And I'll even take time if I'm like stuck, if I'm having a block, to just make myself listen to like, what do I want to hear happen next?
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll go with that. If I've been sitting on something for a month, I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do here. Then I'll start to think about, okay, what are your options then?
Yeah.
And then you start to look at it as a map, a road map. It's like, okay, well, I can take this route, this route, this route, or this route.
Yeah.
Like what? And then you try the things out and see what sounds good to you, you know. But I try to make that, because I do think, and look, some people some people use theory as their basis for writing everything,
Yeah.
and it becomes so natural to them they can make it emotional, and that's fine. I find that for me, when I take that approach, it loses the emotional element to it because it's not what comes natural to me.
Yeah.
Right. So I also just think, again, it's a context thing.
Right. And that's why, and like that's why it works for me, is because like it is a natural thing for me. But I also spent way too many years and way too many dollars to make that a thing, you know. But it is like an instinctive part of my like both playing and this and that is like because there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. It's just like a real time like thought analysis type thing,
Right.
that leads to the thing. But at the end of the day, it is like how it serves the song or the thing the most important, you know, like not necessarily the hippest thing. And sometimes like those things are together. Like sometimes the hippest thing is the thing that makes it emotional. Sometimes that's what's going to distract and take away from the most from the thing. And that was so much part of the record too, is like we had so many of those moments.
Yeah.
And like,
That's
but
why I said it.
yeah,
I
totally.
I thought you were going to disagree.
No, but but like that's the thing about the growth of this record is like we came to that place, you know, by the end of it, you know, is like it definitely didn't start that way. Like it almost came to blows like 5 or 6 times of just like, that's too much shit happening right here,
Well,
dude.
It's like subjective and it depends on the listener too. So
Yeah.
like musicians might get hype, but to like you want everyone to like your shit. You
Yeah.
want everyone to know about your music. The regular listener's gonna be like, that shit's just noodling. You guys
Yeah.
are like fucking I'm overstimulated. That's too notey. Like I'd rather have a 4-chord song with someone fucking wailing about how their heart is broken or whatever
Yeah.
the case is. Like
Yeah.
being a dancer and like a soul lover, I love music from the heart and the soul, not the head.
Yeah.
I think it's pointless if it's just like from the head.
Yeah.
Like just like theory, like it's like a fucking like you just want to like it's like ego. It's like a musician like having a big ego, just trying to I don't know. It sounds like it doesn't make sense. I don't know.
I-
It's all contextual for
It's all
people.
contextual, I
Because
think.
like I point to jazz, and jazz is such a heartfelt like music thing, but it is dense, you know.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the theory comes along with it, but there's so much of that music that is like emotional, even though it's technical, and it is like finding that balance of like it's got to be emotional for like it has to have emotional resonance with the creator, and that'll find resonance with the listener, because
Yeah.
like people will resonate. Like if it rings true with who made it, that's really to me that's the important thing.
It'll find an audience.
Well, it
Somebody else.
transcends-
yeah, exactly.
That's transformative. And I will say that like when I started learning theory and I started realizing what the fuck was going on in some songs, I was blown away too. Like
Yeah.
Hiatus Coyote, when I actually like, okay, I always liked Nakamura or the first song or whatever, but like the more recent album, now I know what's happening. I'm like, oh shit, modulation. Oh shit, the synths.
Yeah.
And so I geek out too. I think it's also like how much you know musically. My friends back home who don't know anything about music, they're not going to be into half the music that I'm into, you know?
Yeah, well, and I think that they find those things, unless it resonates with them emotionally, they're not going to find those things to be impressive. Now, if that thing is something that they naturally connect to,
Right.
then they will find it impressive, but not because it's a weird modulation or they did this hip, you know, transit or this hip kind of transition to get to this chord here. They just hear it and it sounds amazing to them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point that, you know, people should try and get to. But again, there are some musicians that came up with in a world that was very collegiate. You know, they took lessons from early on. They did the high school band. They went to college and they studied music. And the only way that they write is from the head. It doesn't mean that it's void of emotion. They might have an emotional connection to it. I'm sure that they do if they're writing. But like the way their brain makes sense of it is like, here are my options. This is what I want to do. And then conversely, but they can also hear it because their ears are so developed that those ideas are just what they hear naturally. It's not like it's. I don't think that it's necessarily. There are some people that do write from a place of ego that are just trying to impress people. I don't think it's fair to put that onto everybody because I think that there are people whose head and ears are so intertwined that there is no separation. It's like, I hear this idea, this is what I do. I also know what's happening at the same time that I'm hearing it, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that as writers too, I just think that the creator and the writers have to have intent while writing it. Like what's your intention?
Yeah.
Do you want to sell records? Do you want people to be able to sing the solos back like Stevie Wonder? Like everyone knew the solos and sang the solos back, but they were also like really complex. Or how do you want people to feel? How do you feel? Like I think there has to be intention. Do you want to sell records? You got to make it under 5 minutes long or like all this shit. So I just think it's all about intention of what you want to do.
Definitely.
There's so much nuance to it.
I tend to like a certain type of music where it's like I just love soul music. You already know I like certain type of singers and I'm kind of picky, but I'm the first one to say, oh, that's just not my thing. That's just not my thing. That's just not my thing. But at least I know myself, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. Let's see what
I was going to say something totally not related to music. I was going to say something about food, but that's my other passion, eating
and dogs.
Okay. Here's a trend that I really don't like.
Oh God.
Musicians do.
Anton's rant-on corner.
Anton rant-on.
Since we were on the topic of trends, when bands use like they post a video of themselves playing, and they say, if you know such and such and such and such band had a baby. You know what I mean? And then,
like as their like one-liner, the elevator pitch, right?
Yeah.
But in every single indie musician book, they say to do that,
I hate that
say
so much.
For you to put other bands that inspire you in your website, so when people search it on Google, they could find you.
That's fine. That doesn't bother me. Like if you want to get people say, oh, well, we were inspired by so and so, but like on your website, but on a TikTok video, it's like, oh, what if Black Keys had a baby with Nas or something.
I heard one like that. It's like the Black Keys punched Janis Joplin, and like they come up with creative shit to make you remember.
Yeah, it's like if Greta Van Fleet was like put it on their TikTok, like if Led Zeppelin existed in the 2000s. It's like,
yeah,
I don't want to compare myself.
It's too on the nose.
It's too on the nose. Like let people come to their own conclusion. Think of something else to say to you.
You want people to have
I don't know. Conversely, I feel like I'm really good at it when I do that to like introduce people to like something they might not have heard.
That's fine. Do that. Like introduce somebody else's music that way, or even like if you're talking about your own music, you can do it. On your website in a bio, you want to say who you're influenced by. All totally fair, but don't give me a clip of your original content and then put somebody else's name on it just to get attention.
So that everything else is fine, but the minute you personify it to get on a trend, that's where we draw the line.
I just don't. Yeah, because the rest of it's coming from a real place where you're saying like.
But is that just like a video interpretation of their bio? You know what I mean? Like, is that like just not a way to do the same thing in a different medium?
Yeah, but it's people's first introduction to you a lot of the time.
Right. So it's a bio usually.
Followers. Yeah, but
it's the first thing on the website.
But a bio that says, "Hey, we are such and such band. You know, we pull influences from Zeppelin, from whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then because this is what we were inspired by, this and that, whatever. But like on a video, to me, it's the biggest turnoff when I see somebody say, if Yellow Card and fucking
Skinner.
Baby.
Yeah, it's just Skinner. Yeah, Skinner. It's just unoriginal to me, and I don't want to listen to your music.
Yeah.
Just there's something about using somebody else's name to grab attention that makes me think that whatever it is you're doing isn't that good. And I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe it's amazing music. I just don't like that method of advertising.
I agree with you because
it's so crazy. I'm having such a hard time separating that from the other stuff that does it.
Because there's context the other way. This way, there's like no. It's like you're saying, "Oh, I like."
But the context is the music, and then you listen to it and go, "Oh, they're right," or they're just bad at it.
I don't think about that band anymore. Now I'm thinking about the other bands, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so if it was done well, would it bother you as much as if it was a poor job? Like, this is not what these two would have sounded like.
give me an example.
Oh, I don't know.
What do you mean if it was done well?
Okay, so
I just
like
mean,
if it
I
was
mean, like
accurate.
if it was accurate.
No, because a lot of times it is accurate. It's not about whether or not it's accurate.
Like it
It's-
puts it in a box for you.
Yeah, I
you don't want
just
to pigeonhole it.
I see the names. And I'm like, oh, so you're just trying. Like, it sounds like this is what you're trying to be like. It doesn't
Yeah, but
sound
that's
like.
not fair though, because you don't know. Like
You're right. I don't, and that's why it's a bad pitch.
Yeah.
Because you're making me think something that might not be true.
But that's how your brain works, though. You know what I mean? I see
I'm
that.
not the only person out there that's thinking.
Sure,
about
but
it.
if I see like, let's say I look at like Coulter Wall, and it's like
Yeah.
I see, it's like Merle Haggard and like maybe someone modern like fucking Brad Paisley or something had a baby, and I'm like, oh, those are two vastly different influences, but they're both dope. Let me check that out, and then I check out. I'm like, yo, this is different. I hear influence, but I'm now a fan of this thing because I can hear. I almost said historical, but you can hear the context of where that music came from.
Yeah, it just
kind of sounds like disingenuous if you compare yourself to someone else. Like, just be yourself.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
on Facebook, they have an influence like column,
Yeah.
and I put a bunch of our influences.
Yeah, that's fine.
But in all those indie books, they said to do something like
I
that,
know.
and they have examples. And I had a hard time even coming up
Sure,
with one.
yeah.
Could you think of one for Alchematic? I couldn't. But then I was like, fuck yeah, we're original. Like fuck that. I don't want to compare ourselves. And I know people want to pigeonhole you for marketing. They want to tell you to be a certain genre and all this shit. But why put yourself in a box? Like, genre barricades are for pussies.
Hashtag-
Clip it.
They're meant to be broken.
That's the name of the episode, guys. No, I agree with you. I think that you should try to be as authentic as possible, and I just think that there's something about it that to me it comes off as like you're just trying to get on a trend for the sake of getting on a trend. You're trying to pitch another band to get attention to your band. It comes off as like not very confident and just, like, oh guys, this is what we have to do kind of thing.
It could be kind of funny though if they do it right.
Yeah, I just don't buy it. You know what I mean?
I feel you. Look,
and that's all. That's
it
all
works.
good.
It's why it's unpopular, because people do it because it works.
Well,
right?
and I don't think it doesn't work for everybody. But like, there's sometimes when I see it, I'm like, yo, you've hit it on the head.
It works
That's
in the
true.
Google search.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, but there's other times where I can totally see where that's the play, and they're just like saying it's a mashup of a couple things. But I almost think they wrote it to be that. And I have less of
again. That's a problem for
that.
me.
No, and I agree that's a problem. But I don't mind if someone like wrote something that is in touch with what an inspiration would have been, and then they just acknowledge that inspiration. It doesn't have to be mainstream. It could. It doesn't have to be. That doesn't bother me as much. But I mean, I see where you're coming from.
If
It's case by case. I'll just say that. I guess.
Whenever I see somebody on TikTok, because usually it's a TikTok trend, really, and probably
I've seen
Instagram
that
was-
actually today.
Whenever I see, if I see, what it would sound like if Brad Paisley was a hardcore band,
And they have
I just
a band.
fucking see you later.
Yeah.
I have zero interest in what you're putting out now.
Yeah.
It just does that to me. It's not even I've just picked random things.
What grind your gears?
It's just one of those things where I instantly just don't buy in. It's a huge put off for me. I get that's unpopular. It's a trend that seems to be working. People do it.
Don't let me catch you doing it then.
I definitely won't be doing
I'm
it.
just keeping my eye out a little extra hard now.
There are a lot. We discussed several trends that I think are good trends to be
Right.
doing. That's one that it's cringy. That's what it is. It's cringy to me. But anyways, that's
So
that.
when you put out the new acoustic EP, you're not going to put out if Side Hustle sounded like a singer-songwriter.
Definitely not, because it's definitely doesn't sound anything like Side Hustle
If
music.
Dispatch and Creed had a baby,
I was waiting for the Creed reference.
Nice.
that's a good one.
That's nailed
I don't
that.
like what's happening.
With
here.
arms wide open.
I definitely don't sound like Creed. I can see the Dispatch reference though.
If Chris D'Elia played sad boy music,
That's funny.
there you go. You can use that for your marketing. Except, no, wait, you can't because you don't like that stuff.
All right, let's wrap this up.
It's sloth and a reptilian.
This is fun, guys. Glad we got to do this.
Rant on with
Make
it.
sure you check out the new Alchematic record.
Walk away, baby.
Walk Away, available on all platforms now. Follow what's the Instagram and the website and all that.
At Alchematic Band, alchematicband.com.
Awesome. And Caleb, thank you for being with us
Thank you,
today. Really
Caleb.
appreciate it and enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.